We've spent years wondering where Game Freak would take us after the wild technical ride of Generation 9, and now the wait for the 30th anniversary has finally paid off. Say hello to Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves, revealed for a 2027 worldwide release on the Nintendo Switch 2. These titles are officially ushering in Gen 10. We're moving into a massive new region, inspired by the vibrant landscapes of Southeast Asia. And the best part? The devs are actually taking their time. By targeting 2027, this represents the longest gap between generations in Pokemon history. Visually, the jump is night and day. The announcement trailer showcases environments that look closer to new Pokemon Snap than the performance-heavy vistas of Scarlet and Violet. We've already seen the new starters, Brout, the Grass type, Pombon, the Fire type, and the Water type Gekwa, all rendered with a fidelity we haven't seen on handheld hardware before.
Each area is home to a variety of creatures.
If you've followed the Udaware Rumino series, you know it's usually half visual novel, half strategy RPG, but for the 20th anniversary, Aquaplus decided to go full JRPG. It's a prequel that follows a young Ashdor long before he became the legendary general we know, and the hook is a classic search for the father quest sparked by a mysterious girl named Shunya who literally falls into his life. The gameplay is where things get interesting. It's a traditional turn-based system, but with a triple-layered action ring mechanic. Think of it like Grandia on steroids. You're trying to knock enemies into the outer rings to delay their turns while moving your party into the center ring for rapid-fire attacks. It's snappy, tactical, and honestly one of the better turn-based innovations we've seen recently. Between the massive open fields of Enakamui and the Overzeal system that lets you ignore the turn order entirely, it's a meat and potatoes RPG with just enough spice to keep you engaged for all 50 hours. Developed by Pixelated Milk, the team behind Regalia. This is their ambitious love letter to the golden era of JRPGs, specifically the look and feel of Vagrant Story and Xenogears. You play as Ezekiel, a young soldier trying to protect the subterranean city of Antioch from a creeping rot, but the story quickly spirals into a multi-world conspiracy that'll take you from high-tech ruins to celestial realms. The real draw here is the combat. It's a hybrid system that's harder to master than it looks. You're juggling real-time reactions with tactical turn-based inputs, and the combat flow requires you to swap weapons and elements on the fly to build up those high-damage chain attacks. It's snappy, it's fast, and it avoids that menu-heavy feeling that usually bogs down turn-based games. You're managing a rhythm, all while being treated to some of the most impressive 2.5D pixel art we've seen this decade. Seriously, the lighting engine alone is doing some heavy lifting here.
Remembers and stores information on everything it can find.
The original Relink was already a masterclass in flashy, chaotic co-op combat, but this July 9th, Cygames is basically hitting the overdrive button. Endless Ragnarok isn't just a simple patch, it's a massive expansion or a standalone release if you're picking it up for the first time on Switch 2. We're getting a brand new story arc that brings the Wings of Steel himself, Beelzebub, into the Sega Grande Skydome. And yes, for those keeping track, the lore is getting just as deep as the mobile game. The biggest mechanical shakeup? Summons! You can now call in the big guns during battle, with certain summons even letting you take direct control for a limited time. If you time it right, you'll trigger a primal burst, which is basically a chain burst on steroids. But the real meat for the hardcore players is the Conflux, a new single-player roguelite mode that's meant to test your build to the breaking point. Add in crossplay across all platforms and a roster expanding with fan favorites like Beatrix and Eustace, and you've got a reason to grind for those Terminus weapons all over again. LumenTale Memories of Trey is a fascinating experiment in a genre that often feels a bit too comfortable. While everyone else is trying to chase the crown of the next Pokemon, LumenTale decides to take a hard left turn into the world of action RPG mechanics. And honestly, it's a breath of fresh air. You play as Trey, a protagonist who isn't just a bystander barking orders. You're right there in the thick of it, using your Animan to interact with the world in real time. It feels less like a turn-based spreadsheet, more like a tactical dance. The standout feature here is the capture combat flow. You aren't only weakening a creature and throwing a ball, you're also using your Animon's unique abilities to solve environmental puzzles and create openings in combat. It gives the world a sense of physicality that many monster tamers lack. When you find a rare Animon, it feels like a hard-won victory of skill, not just a lucky roll of the dice. It's also surprisingly emotional. The memories in the title isn't just window dressing. The narrative carries a weight that catches you off guard between the vibrant exploration and creature collecting. One thing is clear, Square Enix actually pulled it off. They took the linear shell of Midgar and exploded it into a massive multi-region trek that actually feels like a world map again. It's got that classic Ubi Tower DNA with the intel points, sure, but when you're sprinting across the Meridian Ocean or flying a tiny chocobo over Gongaga, you kind of stop caring about the busy work. The real star of the show? Queen's Blood. I'm not kidding. This card game has no business being this addictive. It's the new Gwent, and I've spent more time hunting down card sharks in the Under Saucer than I have hunting Sephiroth. But speaking of the man with the silver hair, Rebirth doubles down on the meta-sequel weirdness. Between the synergy skills that make combat feel like a true team effort and the absolute gut punch of that ending at the Forgotten Capital, it's a game that respects your nostalgia while also trying to give you a heart attack. It's bloated, it's beautiful, and it's arguably the most Final Fantasy a Final Fantasy has felt in 20 years. Level 5 has been cooking this one for a while, but as of the recent Level 5 Vision 2026 event, this scope has exploded. You're playing as Harvard Marks, a rookie detective in Broadstone who solves crimes by diving into Decasum, a virtual copy of reality that archives every past offense. It's got that classic Level 5 charm, but with a gritty crime suspense edge that feels surprisingly mature for the studio. The gameplay is a triple threat. You're scanning crime scenes for clues in the real world, piecing them together on a caseboard in the virtual world, and then engaging in flashy turn-based battles when a criminal's malice transforms them into a crime beast. The combat is snappy, featuring futuristic gadgets and team-up attacks with your squad, who are all, funnily enough, named after famous universities like Oxford and Manoa. It's a dense, stylish mystery that's finally hitting its stride after its lengthy development cycle.
Magical research is the backbone of the society.
Which is all the more reason.
Now, Square Enix's team Asano has basically perfected the modern retro look with Octopath and Triangle strategy, but for Elliot's debut on the Switch 2 this June, they're finally ditching the turn-based menus for full-blown real-time action. It's essentially HD 2D Zelda, and honestly, it's about time. You're playing as Elliot, a traveling swordsman paired with a fairy companion named Faye, and the hook here is a story that leaps across 4 different ages over a 1,000-year span. The gameplay is all about that Magicite system. It's how you customize your 7 weapon types, like turning a standard bomb into a wide-range nuke that might actually kill you if you aren't careful. And then there's Faye. She's your grappling hook, your dash, and apparently your most talkative critic if the demo feedback is anything to go by. She has a lot to say about every single blade of grass you step on. But look, even with a chatty fairy, the dungeon design, with its Lord of the Maw bosses and clever time-hopping puzzles, is looking incredibly sharp. Usually when we see a massive crossover event, it's a big budget corporate play like Super Smash Bros. Or Kingdom Hearts. But Critical Games is doing something wild here. They've gathered characters from over 13 different indie JRPGs. We're talking Glenn from Chained Echoes, Noah from Jack Move, and even the Warrior from 8-Bit Adventures 2, and throwing them all into a single story-rich epic and the absolute kicker. It's launching in 2026 for free. The premise is pure JRPG goodness. A group of champions are pulled from their respective homes and stranded on a dead world. You're looking at stylish turn-based combat with a massive party of 9 unique heroes, each bringing their own mechanical flavor from their original games. One minute you're using tactical positioning from Quartet, and the next you're unleashing heavy hitters from Kingdoms of the Dump. It's a love letter to the modern indie JRPG scene, meant to act as a gateway drug to all these different franchises. If you like a character here, the hope is you'll go back and play their original 40-hour adventure.
My powers had any meaning.
My will is my own. I
It's no secret that the original Arise was a massive win for Bandai Namco. It basically dragged the franchise into the modern era with a combat system that felt less like a menu shuffler and more like a high-speed dance. But Beyond the Dawn is a bit of a weird beast. It's a 20-hour expansion that takes place a year after the main story, and the twist? It doesn't carry over your levels. You're basically reset to a curated power level, which sounds like a slap in the face until you realize it's the only way they could keep the challenge alive without the numbers hitting the trillions. The heart of this journey is Nazamil, a new character who's the daughter of both a lord and a Reinin, making her the ultimate outcast. The writing here leans heavily into the what happens after the credits trope. We're seeing the fallout of two worlds colliding, literally, and the messy, uncomfortable racism and politics that don't just vanish because you beat a final boss. It's a more somber, character-focused epilogue that fixes one of the biggest complaints of the base game, the lack of meaningful downtime. Gameplay-wise, don't expect a revolution. Now, this Chinese martial arts epic was a massive hit on Steam, but we're finally seeing it make the jump to consoles. You play as Yuan Yi, a young man who barely survives a desert ambush and ends up being taken in by a master of the Wudang sect. From there, it's a sprawling journey through ancient China where you're navigating the complex Jianhu, the world of martial arts outlaws and legends. The combat is where Wandering Sword gets really clever. It's played on a tiled grid, and it actually lets you swap between turn-based and real-time modes on the fly. If you want to sit back and plan every move like a strategist, you can. But if you want that fast-paced cultivation flow where everyone moves as soon as their bar fills up, you just hit a button. You're collecting hundreds of martial arts techniques, opening up your meridian points, and recruiting over a dozen different companions, each with their own side stories and unique fighting styles. It's got that one more spar energy that makes 20 hours feel like 5. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you mashed Pokemon together with a roguelite and gave everyone a scooter, well, Crazy Goat Games is finally answering that question. We're looking at a Q3 2026 release, and it's essentially a condensed monster taming adventure. Instead of a 40-hour slow burn, you're getting procedurally generated runs where you explore biomes like the mist and toxic swamps, building a team of Mokiton from scratch every time you head out. The real hook here is the hybrid combat. It's a mix of real-time positioning and tactical turn-based strategy. You're positioning creatures like Clamper, who basically acts as a living battery to fuel the high damage abilities of your heavy hitters. It's got that one more run energy, especially with the fusion system allowing you to evolve your team on the fly. Whether you're chasing badges or just trying to survive the final stadium showdown, it's a refreshing take on the genre that skips the fluff and goes straight for the gameplay. It's coming later this year, and for a compact collector, it's looking surprisingly deep. If you're a fan of the cyber sleuth era, you know the drill, stylish urban exploration mixed with some seriously deep monster raising, but Time Stranger raises the stakes by dropping us into the digital world Iliad, governed by the larger-than-life Olympus 12. You play as an Adamas agent thrown 8 years into the past after a catastrophic event called the Shinjuku Inferno, and your job is to fix the timeline with the help of a mysterious, amnesiac Digimon named Agioma. Now, we're looking at a July 10th launch for the Nintendo ecosystem, and there's a bit of a technical twist here. On the Switch 2, you're getting 2 modes, a 4K quality mode and a 60 FPS performance mode. Gameplay-wise, it's still that classic turn-based rhythm, but with the new cross-art system, by building up your CP meter, your human agent can finally jump into the fray with massive team-up attacks that can break a boss's concentration. Toss in a revamped personality system that dictates your digivolution paths, and it's clear Mediavision is leaning hard into the RPG side of the franchise. Toby Fox has been playing the long game, but with chapters 3, 4, and 5 finally dropping as a complete package, the mystery of the Dark World is hitting a fever pitch. We've moved past the goofy internet vibes of Queen and the TV static chaos of chapter 3, and now, in chapter 4 and 5, things are getting dark, like actual consequences dark, The fountain is open, the stakes are real, and the cozy town of Hometown is starting to feel a lot less safe. The big gameplay hook this time around involves the Shadow Mantle, an item fans have been theorizing about for years that finally becomes a central mechanic for navigating the deep void sections of Chapter 5. Combat has also evolved. It's not just about act and spare anymore, we're seeing more complex dual acts that require specific positioning on the bullet board, making the encounters feel less like a rhythm game and more like a tactical puzzle. And yes, for the lore hunters out there, the G word is everywhere. Whether it's the strange static in the transitions or the cryptic man behind the tree, the connection to Undertale is finally starting to bridge the gap in ways that'll make your head spin. You might recognize the name from the mobile hit, but Right Flyer Studios is making it very clear this isn't just a simple port. Landing on September 17th, this is a ground-up reimagining of Aldo's journey across time, written by the legendary Masato Kato and scored by Yasunori Mitsuda. It's basically the closest thing we're getting to a new Chrono Trigger in 2026, trading the gacha mechanics for a traditional, fully voiced premium RPG experience. We're getting a roster of 19 playable characters and a brand new New Game Plus mode that isn't just for show. Your choices throughout the story actually matter this time, branching out into over 10 different endings. The combat has also been overhauled with the Another Force gauge and strategic chain skills that reward you for building a balanced party, rather than just pulling for the highest rarity. It's got that classic side-scrolling field exploration, but everything from the character progression to the dungeon layouts has been redesigned to feel like a modern console epic. Now, if you finished the first game, you know that cliffhanger at the Grancel Castle was a certified heartbreaker, but here in 2026, Falcom is finally giving us the conclusion to Estelle's search for Joshua. This isn't just a remaster, it's a full 3D reimagining built on the same engine as Daybreak, turning the classic 2D Liberal Kingdom into a sprawling modern world that actually lets you see the scale of those massive airships. The gameplay takes the tactical grid-based combat we love and adds a layer of modern speed. We're looking at a revamped orbment system and the return of chain crafts, which feel more impactful than ever with the new cinematic camera angles, but the real draw is the story. This is where the series truly becomes Trails. You're going head-to-head with the Ouroboros Enforcers, and the writing stays true to that slow-burn character development that makes the cast feel like family. Whether you're fishing in Ruan or scaling the Zeiss Towers, the attention to detail in this remake is just next level. Now, we've been staring at that same footage of Sora's photorealistic Shibuya apartment for so long we could probably tell you the rent. But here in 2026, the Lost Master arc is finally starting to feel real. Square Enix has been playing it close to the chest, but the shift to Unreal Engine 5 isn't just a facelift, it's a vibe shift. We're moving from the cartoonish pop of the 2000s into something Nomura calls Quadratum, a world of unreality that looks suspiciously like our reality. The scrap and build mechanic and the return of modified reaction commands. Remember those cinematic press triangle to win moments from KH2? They're back, but they've evolved. Sora's Keyblade now doubles as a grappling hook, turning the verticality of Tokyo into a jungle gym. And yes, the rumors of a certain galaxy far, far away are hitting critical mass. With Missing Link getting the X last year, Square has supposedly folded those lore-heavy segments directly into KH4, giving us more playable Riku, and a story that doesn't require a PhD in mobile game history, hopefully. It's ambitious, it's gorgeous, and if it actually hits that 2027 window, it might just be the series' Breath of the Wild moment. We've seen plenty of games try to capture that Atlas magic, but Barcelona-based Wigan Industries is doing something actually fresh here. They've taken the social sim and turn-based DNA of Persona and transplanted it directly into the folklore of mythological Spain. Instead of Japanese urban legends, you're hunting down Ojuncanos and Scornaus, creatures from Spanish mythology that honestly look like they walked right out of a dark fairy tale. You play as a diverse group of hunters, including a guitar-wielding wizard in a mid-30s crisis, and a very foul-mouthed hellhound navigating a world recovering from a supernatural pandemic. The gameplay is a 40-hour of tactical turn-based combat and social management. By day, you're exploring beautifully stylized versions of Madrid and Asturias, building relationships to unlock new abilities. By night, you're diving into dungeons that feel like a love letter to the PSX era. It's got that cozy one more day rhythm, but with an art style influenced by Alfonso Espiri that gives it a gritty comic book edge. Developed by Atelier Mimina, the team behind Giraffe and Annika, this is a sci-fi action RPG that's all about that juvenile adventure spirit. You play as Yuki, a kid stuck in a sleepy village who dreams of the cosmos until a mysterious girl named Mia crash lands nearby. It's structured like a 13-episode anime season, complete with next episode previews as you hop between planets to find Yuki's missing father and uncover why humanity stopped reaching for the stars. The gameplay is a mix of exploration and snappy combat where you're constantly swapping between Yuki and Mia. Each boss has specific gimmicks that force you to use their unique skill sets. Yuki handles the technical heavy lifting with his energy-collecting mech, while Mia brings the mysterious firepower. Between the story segments told through colorful motion comics and the hunt for hidden pieces scattered across unique alien biomes, it's got a cozy, lighthearted rhythm that balances out the mystery of a dying civilization. It's built in Unreal Engine, giving those anime-style visuals a modern high-fidelity pop. Let's talk about a series that refuses to let the dream of the 90s die. Brigandine Abyss is coming to Switch 2, and if you're a fan of grand strategy RPGs, this is basically your Super Bowl. It's the direct follow-up to The Legend of Runerzia, and it's doubling down on everything that made the original PlayStation cult classic a sleeper hit. The core gameplay is still that intoxicating mix of Risk meets Final Fantasy Tactics. You pick one of 6 nations, manage your mana costs, and lead squads of monsters across a massive hexagonal grid, but Abyss is taking advantage of that new hardware. We're seeing massive 100-unit skirmishes with zero slowdown, and the 2D to 3D transition for the battle animations looks incredibly sharp. There's a massive amount of content here. 6 full story campaigns, but if you just want to paint the map your color, Mission Mode lets you play as any of the 24 nations on the map.
I only want to fight so I can save my father's life.
Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is a game that feels like it's constantly playing a trick on you. It takes that classic tactical formula we've loved for decades and decides that reliability is a luxury you can no longer afford. At first glance, it's gorgeous, vibrant sprites, a sweeping orchestral score, and the kind of high-stakes political drama that makes you want to take notes, but once you're on the grid, you realize the fortune in the title isn't just flavor text. The core mechanic revolves around the weave gauge, unlike previous titles where a 90% hit rate feels like a sure thing. Fortune's Weave actively punishes complacency. You can manipulate the threads of fate to guarantee a critical hit, but doing so thins the weave, making your units exponentially more vulnerable during the enemy phase. It creates this incredible high-tension feedback loop. Do you burn your luck now to take out that Pegasus Knight? Or do you save it and pray the RNG don't decide to end your permadeath run with a stray 2% crit? For over 20 years, the Disgaea series has been the undisputed king of I spent 400 hours in a spreadsheet and now my printy deals 10 billion damage. But this July, Nippon Ichi is throwing the grid out the window. Disgaea Mayhem is a full-blown action RPG, and honestly, it's about time this series let us actually swing the sword. You're playing as NA, a mercenary whose only job is to find legendary flan for Princess Tichelle. It sounds ridiculous because it is Disgaea, but don't let the snack and slash vibe fool you. The game is basically a netherworld-themed Muzo. You're taking direct control of iconic weapons, swords, guns, fists, and mowing down literal hundreds of enemies at once. Now, if you're worried they've dumbed it down, don't be. The core DNA is still here. You've still got the item world for endless gear grinding, and the dark chocolate assembly replaces the Senate for passing ridiculous bills.
Japan, where Kyoto is the capital, another world exists that's incredible.
It's been over a decade since Kyoto Xanadu tried to be Falcom's answer to Persona, and for the 10th anniversary, they're finally giving us a sequel that looks like it actually has its own soul. We're trading the neon streets of Morimiya for the traditional shrines and modern districts of Kyoto, following a transfer student named Rei who gets caught up in the Hirosaka Labyrinth, a massive otherworldly rift sitting right under his academy. The big gameplay hook here is the innovative 2D x 3D battle system. Most of your exploration in the labyrinth plays out like a classic side-scroller, but once you hit specific gates, the camera snaps behind your shoulder for full 3D action combat. You're juggling soul excels to buff your stats and IS encounters for those satisfying one-hit kills. Outside the dungeons, the school life sim is deeper than ever. You're using action cards to boost your stats in class and exploring Kyoto's gourmet spots to build social links. It's got that cozy Falcom loop, but with a visual polish we haven't really seen from them before. After years of please look forward to it, Yoshi P actually did it. Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn is officially coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 this August, and honestly, it's kind of a miracle it works as well as it does now. We saw the live demo at FanFest 2026, and while the Switch 2 is a beast compared to the original, we're looking at a stable 30 FPS in busy hubs like Limsa Lumensa. But here's the kicker, and it's a very Nintendo-sized kicker. Unlike every other platform where one sub rules them all, the Switch 2 version requires its own separate subscription. Yeah, even if you're already a vet on PC or PS5, you'll need a second monthly fee to take your Lalafell on the go. Square is softening the blow with a 50% discount for existing players, and thankfully you won't need Nintendo Switch Online to play. Is it annoying? Absolutely. But having the full Dawn Trail experience and the upcoming Evercold expansion in a handheld that actually fits in a bag, that might just be worth the extra gil? Starbites drops us onto the desert planet of Bitter, a world that's basically an interstellar junkyard. You play as Lukita, a scavenger hunting for scraps to pay off generational debts. And the hook here is the motorbots. They're customizable mechs that handle everything from turn-based combat to hovering across the vast wastelands. The combat is where Starbites tries to carve out its own lane. It's all about the fracture count. Exploit an enemy's weakness enough and you'll stun them for multiple turns. While you're breaking their guard, you're building your driver's high gauge, which lets you steal extra turns and completely flip the momentum. Since you can only bring 3 allies into a fight, the synergy between your motorbot parts and your party composition is the difference between a successful haul and getting buried in the sand. Okay guys, tell us in the comments which games you're most excited about, and if you enjoyed the video, hitting that like button helps us out a ton, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. As always, I'm Cyril, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.